As a scholar deeply immersed in the lore of Middle-earth for decades, I must say that Sauron's manipulation of Celebrimbor is as cunning as it gets. Um, he masterfully played on the pride and ambition of the renowned blacksmith, pushing him to create the flawed rings that eventually led to the One Ring and the entirety of the events in the Lord of the Rings saga was warning. This article contains uh, spoilers for the Rings of Power Season 2. The Lord of the Rings of Power presents intriguing queries regarding the enchanted jewelry, with the primary question being why neither dwarves nor elves become invisible when wearing them. In the concluding episode of Season 1, the anticipated plot unfolded in Eregion, delivering on the show's promise, following Sauron's unmasking and his banishment to Mordor by Galadriel. Celebrimbor forged the 3 Elven Rings of Power. It's been made clear in Season 2 of the Rings of Power that Sauron's plan to forge powerful jewelry didn't end with the original rings disguised as Anatar. He influenced Celebrimbor to create more crucial items that would shape Middle-earth's destiny. In The Lord of the Rings, there are 20 rings of power in total, leading us to wonder about their various impacts on their bearers. Interestingly, unlike some other rings of power, the Elven and Dwarven rings in the Rings of Power do not grant invisibility to their wearers. And the Dwarves were more resistant to the 7 rings than Sauron anticipated. The Dwarves received other effects from the Rings of Power. Initially, Sauron designed the Dwarven Rings of Power to influence their wearers, as the 9 rings did among men, making them vulnerable to his control through corruption. Yet what Sauron had overlooked was the inherent toughness of Middle-earth's dwarves, for they showed a remarkable resistance to many of the ill effects that these rings were supposed to bestow. Instead, it was the dwarves who experienced the most profound personality changes. Unlike men who were molded by Sauron as ring bearers, the dwarves became excessively greedy and cruel. This is evident in Durin the Third from the Rings of Power Season 2, as he becomes increasingly obsessed with mining gold and jewels beneath Khazad-dûm, drawing him closer to the slumbering Balrog. And this avarice spreads to other Dwarven lords as well, and Sauron's underestimation of their resilience may account for the Rings of Power having minimal impact on the strong-willed dwarf race of Middle-earth. The Elves' rings weren't designed to turn the wearer invisible. Sauron had no sway over the crafting of the Elven rings. Sinded, regarding the Elven Rings of Power, a unique theory suggests why they don't grant invisibility. Unlike the dwarf and human rings forged by Sauron, the Elven rings were not crafted by him. This is consistent in both the Rings of Power timeline and Tolkien's Legendarium. The Elven rings were created apart from Sauron's corruptive powers, allowing the elves to create 3 pure entities that showcase their power in Middle-earth without any of the corrupted elements that Sauron infuses into other rings of power. And in essence, the Elven rings were created without any malicious intentions or hidden agendas. Consequently, they were free from the negative consequences that plagued the other rings of power, such as the sinister influence Sauron used to make certain wearers become invisible. This aspect was particularly emphasized in the opening 3 episodes of season 2, where these rings played a crucial role in preserving the elves' light and enabling them to carry on their struggle throughout the second age of Middle Earth. How the Rings of Power Season 2 explains the Nine's powers of invisibility. The Ring's invisibility is used as a manipulation tactic for Sauron. In the Rings of Power TV series, the hidden abilities of the magical rings are provided with additional depth. In Season 2, Episode 5, Sauron persists in persuading Celebrimbor to create rings for men, believing them unfit to possess such power. Sauron, being a master of deceit, suggests he will craft the 9 rings himself, possibly making deliberate errors during the process. This is an attempt to play into Celebrimbor's ego, tricking the elf into making the rings in order to do it right. There's a certain personality that you see if you're missing or you're translated in fighting, and then you see the scene fighting, and then you see a blacksmith pledging his aid once more. And then writing by, as such, the invisibility of the rings of men was used by Sauron to manipulate Celebrimbor, while likely being something the former will implement into the finished rings, fix the mistakes he made with those given to the dwarves. What's actually happening when a ring of power turns the wearer invisible. The barrier between realms is blurred in the verse works penned by J.R.R. Serva. And before things, it was something that he delves into the consequences, and when a ring imbued with power makes its wearer vanish from sight. Within the realm of Middle-earth, there exist 2 dimensions. The visible and the invisible are main self. These realms overlap, but only a select few possess the ability to perceive the invisible images. Only beings of immense power, such as Maiar or the Astari in The Lord of the Rings, can traverse both dimensions. The inhabitants of the invisible world are often magical entities, which helps explain their relationship with the Maiar and Istari. When Sauron fashioned the Rings of Power, he infused them with his hidden world's power. This power had a captivating effect on the ring bearers of men, enticing them towards the unseen domain whenever they wore the rings. Over time, these ring bearers lived in both the visible and unseen worlds, eventually disappearing almost completely from the former. They worked, although their physical forms remained in the visible world. The Nazgul ringwraiths of the Lord of the Rings were primarily dwellers of the unseen realm. Concerning the One Ring from the Lord of the Rings, it whisked its bearers to a hidden dimension called the Unseen World. And once in this concealed realm, entities become undetectable in the physical world because they've traversed the boundaries between dimensions. This is why certain rings of power render their owners invisible. However, dwarves seem immune to this effect, and elven rings lack this power, as suggested in The Lords of the Rings of Power, Season 2.